When LeBron James went to the basket for this game-winning layup and missed it when no foul was called, it was understandable he was upset. I'm not sure it merited this much of a reaction, but his point was made. And since this game, lots of fans have been pointing to a huge free throw disparity that has favored the Lakers. This is compelling evidence for the argument that the NBA decided to make up for that blown call by unfairly favoring them with whistles for the rest of the year. When Phoenix came to town 2 weeks ago, the Lakers posted their second highest free throw attempt disparity on the season, and Monty Williams was willing to contribute some money to the cause with his post-game remarks.
I can sit here and rant and rave about what I feel like is not a fair whistle. It's just not. We're attacking the rim. I'm getting explanations about we're taking too many jump shots, mid-range jump shots. We're playing a physical game. They had 27 free throws in the first half. They end up with 46. When do you see a game with 46 free throws for one team? That's not right. Devin Booker on our team, he gets 12. Josh gets, our bench had no free throws. And I'll say it again, 46-20. That's it. That's all I got to say.
He almost mentioned Josh Okogie in his complaint, but a quick glance at the box score shows him taking 6 free throws, a lot more than the 2.5 he averages. And Booker got 12 attempts from the line, almost double his average. I went through both of their field goal attempts to see where the fouls weren't being called, and I've got to be honest with you. It was hard to find anything to call, mainly because Booker is a jump shooter a lot of the time. You can see him kicking out his right leg for contact here, which could be considered an offensive foul in some cases. And I think we can all agree that despite Monty's insistence that his team is physical and goes to the hoop, even the stats don't quite bear this out, as his team is at the bottom of the league in drives per game. That said, just because you drive a lot doesn't mean you should get a ton of free throws. The Thunder lead the league in drives per game, but are 14th in free throw attempts. The Pacers are 2nd in drives and are 18th in charity stripe shots. On this transition attempt, D'Angelo Russell strips Booker, and on the replay, he makes contact with the hand while it's on the ball. This is legal in the NBA and was rightfully called out of bounds. There was a little bit of contact as Booker pulls for this midi, but it's marginal at best, and I think a great no call. The only attempt that could be considered a shooting foul was this pull-up from 3, where there appears to be slight contact on the shooting wrist, but it doesn't look like even Booker was upset. The irony is that the biggest difference in free throws for the Lakers was against this very same Suns team in November, but because the Suns won, Monty wasn't nearly as upset and also interested in saving his money for a more noble cause.
I'm not going there because I got a lot of kids and Christmas is coming up, so I'm going to keep my money. Our guys noticed it early on in a physical game like that where that many guys are hitting, and you think we'd have a few more, but I don't know what to say. It's just, it's tough because we attack the basket. We had more shots. We have a ton of shots in the paint. That's how we play. So
it does feel like there's been a lot more anger directed at the officials this year, and a growing sentiment that they deserve some sort of verbal abuse if they miss a call, despite having that condition called being a human. Sometimes they miss calls, it happens, but they get a ridiculously large amount right despite observing a game with gigantic players that move as quick as lightning. Fans are also upset at all the technical fouls being handed out. But here's a great example of a foul called on Nikola Vucevic, where he rushes to the ref in a tizzy insisting he didn't foul. But look at this replay. What is a ref supposed to do when a player bitterly complains like this over the most obvious of foul calls? This sort of complaining happens on a lot of them, and I think fans' instinct is to believe the player despite the evidence to the contrary. But if you can get a handle on how the refs are calling the game early, you should be able to adjust your play accordingly and find success. Just like you can find success when heading over to UnderdogFantasy.com to check out Pick'em, where you can choose 2 to 5 players, then decide on the over-under for specific stats. It's super easy to set up, and you can win up to 20 times your initial entry fee. But it doesn't stop there. You can make it a rival and add players from different teams to make it even more interesting. They've also got drafts where you can compete against me. You think you got what it takes? If you click on the link below and use my promo code BBALL, you'll get a deposit match of up to $100. So if you want a chance to get up to 20 times your money or beat me in a draft, you've got to check out Underdog Fantasy. Use my code BBALL, get up to $100 in matching deposits, and you'll have a better chance at winning money and understanding why the Lakers are taking so many more free throws than their opponents. Judging by these stats, you might think something radical has to change from the refs. After all, since that Boston game, the Lakers have a lot less drives per game, yet their free throw attempts jumped quite a bit. If you just look at the numbers on a piece of paper, there is no other conclusion than this is rigged. The Lakers are getting special treatment to help LeBron, and it all seems irrefutable. But wait a minute, can we even correlate drives per game and free throw attempts? Looking at these rankings would indicate that there isn't much of a connection. So let's look at why the Lakers have such a high drive to free throw attempt ratio. Let's start with Austin Reaves, since he became a target of non-Lakers fans with some of his eye-popping numbers. The game against Orlando a few weeks ago seemed like damning evidence as Austin Reaves went to the line a whopping 18 times. Let's look at all the shooting fouls Reaves drew in this game to get a handle on the situation. With a good shot fake, he gets Suggs drifting towards him with clear hip-to-hip contact that certainly rises to the level of a foul. Here's a great example of the Trae Young foul. Your defender is behind you and you stop quickly. Before you go crazy and say this isn't supposed to be a foul anymore, the NBA clarified that while some types of offensive moves that create contact could be considered offensive fouls now, this particular one is unquestionably a defensive foul. You can't run into the shooter like this. At first glance, you might think there was some phantom contact on this drive, but when you watch more closely, Wendell Carter Jr. clearly makes contact with his elbow before Banchero goaltends the shot. And this pinch post action right out of the triangle offense catches Fultz out of position. Again, there isn't much of a choice by the referees. The defender is not squared to the driver, and Reaves is driving straight to the hoop when the shoulder-to-shoulder collision occurs. He gets a baseline drive in the third for another and one, this time a lefty finish, and you can take your pick who the foul should be on. Now, does he land before he releases the shot? Sure, but he'd still have gotten 2 free throws then. This one drove people a little batty on Twitter, and the only way this could be problematic is if he tried to jump backwards into his trailing defender. But he clearly stays within his frame and doesn't initiate enough contact that'd be considered an offensive foul. Plus, Franz Wagner has no problem with the call. In a tie game late, Reaves has to hoist up one at the shot clock buzzer and gets another shooting foul. There wasn't much wiggle room here either, as Reaves lands on Banchero's foot. No landing space by the defender means free throws every time. With the game decided and the Magic needing to stop the clock, he got 4 more free throws as the defense intentionally took these fouls. But right before these, something else happened, which I think encapsulates everything about Austin Reaves. Down by only 2 points with plenty of time left, Markelle Fultz decides to hound Reaves, looking to steal his dribble. He ends up reaching in and clearly fouling him at midcourt, basically ending any hope the Magic had to win the game. Why did he foolishly reach in like this? Is it possible he had so little respect for Austin's dribbling abilities that he thought he could just use his quickness to snatch some cookies? But I'm here to tell you, underestimate Austin Tyler Reaves at your own peril. If you're a guard in the NBA and haven't figured out that this kid can play, let me show you some things. His handle is tight, and his confidence as a killer has been growing game by game. We keep seeing defenders think they could just reach in on him, and he hits them with a killer crossover and then draws legit contact to add insult to injury to their mistake. Over the course of the season, there are so many silly fouls committed that are not only easy for the refs to make, but indicate to me that his defenders need to respect how good he can dribble and stop trying to reach in foolishly. To top it off, he's become an expert at varying his gather timing, putting a new spin on "you reach, I teach." As a result, Reaves has been maximizing the way teams think they can guard him with a newfound aggressiveness and skill at making sure there is very real contact.
You can pick spots here and there to use their speed and energy to try to get back in front to draw a foul like that or stuff like that. So I've watched James Harden, like I said, Trae, to masters at that and kind of try to, put it into my game.
Of course, any team that has Anthony Davis on it is going to get their fair share of legitimate shooting fouls. He is always around the basket, creating pressure on the defense, and goes strong to the hoop, drawing over 8 free throw attempts per game. Having gone through a ton of his calls, it's rare to see one that didn't merit a whistle. Oh, and there's this other guy on the team you might have heard of, the kind of downhill force that requires a foul to stop him from putting the ball in the hole. In the ultimate irony, His fans have bitterly complained for years that he doesn't get calls that he should, and I don't envy the ref's job considering how difficult it is to deal with such a physical player near the basket.
I'm attacking the paint just as much as any of the other guys in this league that's shooting double-digit free throws a night. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
I think the point is that every team has grievances, and they all feel like the refs are out to get them, putting the officials in an impossible situation in which they're making the best of it. I mean, after hearing Monty Williams complain all season about his son's teams not getting enough calls, look what Chris Finch said about them the other day after his Wolves got outshot from the line.
Free throws disparity got us. I thought we were driving and playing with just as much force as they were. Tonight they went to the line 27 times and we went to the line 12 times. Okay, so sitting up here and talking about it or whatever must have worked for them, because this is a team that doesn't historically draw fouls at the rate that they did tonight. So.
And Rudy Gobert got fined as well for being even more explicit, thinking that the Suns and the Warriors and even the Kings, are being pushed by the league to get favorable calls. Nonsense. To address the number of free throws they're attempting, let's just look at some stats normalized for pace. While the Lakers do lead the league in free throw attempts per 100 possessions, it's by a razor-thin margin over 4 other teams. The 15th ranked Memphis Grizzlies attempt about 2.5 less, so the difference is about 1 shooting foul a game. Hardly worthy of a conspiracy, wouldn't you say? And since that Celtics game, there has been an uptick in attempts, but I can honestly tell you nothing really stood out going through hundreds of clips. But here's the thing, having a huge free throw disparity isn't just about drawing a lot of shooting fouls, it's also about not fouling your opponent. And wouldn't you know it, the Lakers lead the league in fewest fouls committed per 100 possessions. With different reffing crews every night and lots of teams intent on going at the Lakers, is it plausible that somehow the referees are swallowing their whistles more? Finding the absence of calls is extremely challenging, and when going through enough clips to make you bleary-eyed, mirages can happen. But I'm here to tell you something you might not have realized. Since February 9th, they've been ranked first in defensive rating, and it was by subtraction as much as it was by addition that this club has become a lockdown defensive bunch. They adhere to a strict no-middle policy. You can see with their closeouts that they want to force everyone to the baseline. And here's a little secret. When you do this, you tend to foul a lot less. When teams consistently allow the ball into the middle, it causes way more fouls as the space gets claustrophobic very quickly, and it also leads to a lot of open three-point shots. It's no surprise to me that over the last 23 games, the Lakers give up the 6th fewest open three-point attempts in the league, while also hardly fouling anybody. Getting back to Reaves, he's an underrated athlete who's got good mobility, but more importantly is great at showing his chest to his man, absorbing any contact legally, allowing him to get stops without excessively fouling. Add to that, Jared Vanderbilt is a one-man wrecking crew when the Lakers don't have the ball. Seemingly everything, everywhere, all at once. Here's no middle defense with the defender riding the ball handler along the lane line and Vanderbilt swooping in from the weak side to end the possession without a foul. While their offense since the trade is still below average at 19th, we know that when they're fully healthy with LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the lineup, alongside shooters like D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reaves, Troy Brown Jr., and Malik Beasley, scoring should not be the issue. Historically, the free throw disparity isn't even that significant, as this has happened many times in the past. And from what I've seen time and time again with this footage, is that the shooting calls they're getting are for the most part warranted. On the other side of the ball, Anthony Davis is a superstar, and I can't admit he will get the benefit of the doubt on those 50-50 calls a lot of the time. But one reason why is that he is very good at protecting the rim when he's engaged, and they've got some other really good defenders that know how to move their feet well. Plus, poor defenders don't end up fouling a lot either, so in some weird way, there's a benefit to them being out there as well. Since the Lakers made their big trade, they have the second best record in the NBA, despite LeBron missing a ton of games, and now that he's back and part of the best defense in the league, you have to give them pretty good odds of going deep in the playoffs, and that should scare everyone.